Hello guys and welcome to another tutorial. Before we dive into the tutorial, I want to express my gratitude towards you guys for joining with me on this channel where we together learn new things in each video. Also, if you are new to my channel or if you have been enjoying my tutorials, then make sure to hit that subscribe button as it motivates me to keep making such tutorials. So with that said, let's start with the tutorial. So in this video, we will be solving a coding question called leaders in an array. So the problem states that given an array of integers, print all the leaders in that array. So an element is a leader when it is greater than all the elements on its right side, or if it is the rightmost element. So we need to print such elements from the array. Now suppose we have this array of 6 integers. Now the leaders in this array are 18, 17, 6 and 2 as they are greater than the elements to the right. So for this problem we will be discussing two approaches to solve it. So let's see the first approach. In this approach, we will take each element and check all the next elements with it if they are greater or not. If the current element is the largest, then it is a leader and we will print it. So we will take the first element, that is 18, and check all the elements to its right. Now since 18 is largest, it is a leader and we will print it. Now we will take 17 and again check the elements to its right. And since 17 is greater than the others, it is a leader and we will print it too. Next element is 5. Now since 5 is not greater than 6, we will move on to the next element. So the next element is 6, which is greater than the elements to its right. So we will print it too. Again the next element, that is 1, is not greater than 2. Thus we will move on to the last element, which is 2. Now since 2 is the rightmost element, therefore it is by default a leader and we will print it. So the leaders are 18, 17, 6 and 2. Now let's write the code to solve this problem using the first approach. So here I have created an array list to store the leaders. You can also directly print the leaders if you don't want to use extra space. Next I have created a variable j initialized to 0. This variable will be used later in the code. So first let's create a for loop to pick one element at a time. Then we will create an inner for loop which will start from the next element to I, that is I plus 1, and go till length of array minus 1. Now in the inner loop we will check if element at index I is smaller than the elements to the right of it. If we encounter such an element where element at I is smaller than element at j, we will break out of the inner loop and move on to the next iteration of outer loop. Now if the inner loop terminates successfully, the value of j will be equal to the size of the array. And we will check this. That is, we will check if it is equal to size of array. And if this is true, then we will add the value at index I into the array list. So why is this important? Let's suppose the size of array is 6. Now if you observe carefully, you can see that if we encounter a value at, let's say, j equals to 3, which is greater than element at index I, the loop will terminate before j has the value of size of array, which is 6. And thus we will ignore the element at index I and move on to the next iteration of outer loop. And if the inner loop terminates successfully, we know that j is equal to the size of array, which means the element at index I is greater than all the elements to the right, and therefore we will add it into the array list. Now after the for loop terminates, we will have the leaders in the array list. So we will print them using for each method. Now let's execute our code. Here I have created two arrays, so the leaders in the first array are 18, 17, 6 and 2. And for the second array, now since all the elements are in descending order, thus all are leaders. So let's see the output. Okay, so the code is working fine. And also since we are using an outer loop with an inner loop present, the time complexity of this algorithm is O of n squared, where n is the size of input. Now let's see the second approach to solve this problem. So as we saw earlier, the previous approach has time complexity of n squared. So let's see an approach with linear time complexity, that is time complexity of O of n. Here we will be using stack data structure to store the leader elements, and another point is that we will traverse the array from the last element. So initially the stack is empty and the last element is 2, which is also the rightmost element, thus being a leader by default. Therefore we will push 2 onto the stack. Then we have 1. Now since 1 is smaller than 2, which is the top element of the stack, we will ignore it and move on to 6. As 6 is greater than 2, we will push 6 onto the stack. And now the top of the stack is 6. So the next element is 5, which is less than stack top. So we will move to 17. Now as 17 is greater than 6, we will push 17 on the stack and the top now points to 17. Now we have 18. Again 18 is greater than 17, thus we will push 18 on the stack. Now we are done traversing the array, and if you observe, we have the leaders in our stack. Now we will just pop every element from the stack and print it. Now let's write the code to solve this problem using second approach. Since we are using stack in this approach, we will create a stack variable and push the last element in the stack. Now we will create a for loop which will start from the second last element and go till the 0th element. Now we will check if current element is greater than or equal to the top element of the stack using the peek method, which looks at the top of the stack without removing that element. If this is true, then we will push the current element in the stack. So this is the code to get the leaders from the array and store them in the stack. Now to print the leaders, we will create a while loop and check if the size of stack is greater than 0. In the loop, we will pop the elements from the stack. Since pop method returns the element that is popped, we will print it using the print method. Now for the same inputs, let's execute our code. So in this case too, we are getting the correct result. Now if you are still here and want to learn more such questions, then check out this playlist on the left. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to keep receiving new tutorials. Thanks for watching.